Business model generation is basically the book that where the business model canvas started, the BMC. This is something that we use throughout entrepreneurship at FGCU. It's kind of the first thing we get people to think about when they when they figure out the problem they're trying to solve, and they're looking at all the alternative solutions, and they come up with what they think they're going to offer. So it was started in 2010 when the book came out. There are basically, it's something that I think is really interesting in the fact that there is some steps to follow, but there's less structure around it than you may think, because people have used it as a way to, some people have improved it, have made some adjustments to it. People teach it in many different ways. So all I really want to do is give you an overview of it, and you can use it to your own advantage. But the one thing I like about it, it's a single sheet of paper. And what that means is you don't have to write a big business plan and stress over all that it goes that's involved in writing a business plan. In fact, we try to move people away from thinking about the business plan, at least in the early stages, because everything is an assumption, and everything will change the more you run your experiments and the more you learn about your customer segment or the solution that you're building, or even how to set up the structure. So this is a tool that we teach and a lot of others teach in terms of using Post-its to fill it out, because they're going to change. But this can be used by any organization, big or small. If you're reviewing a business for another MBA class, if you started with this document, you get a really clear idea of the overall business on one page. And it doesn't matter if it's big or small or private or public. It's a way to summarize the most important, the way it's organized as a business, the way it gives value to customers, who they're targeting, how they reach them. So it gives you all of that, how they make money, what their cost structure is. So it's a very, very good summary. I would urge you to use it on any business that you're evaluating, because it forces you into these blocks that are pretty similar to a number of, to all businesses. So that is the value of it. It's pretty compelling. You create the plan. And so when you're coming up to it, this is really what we use even in terms of discussions, because it has to make sense. It has to make sense the way the value proposition ties to the target segment that you're going after. It has to make sense that the cost structure and the revenue streams and how you're going to get paid all make sense. So it really, I like it because it gets common sense into the equation instead of just filling it out and hope it all sticks. But one of the most important things is how they relate to each other, how these blocks relate to each other. So 9 elements are also called building blocks. There's 2 main areas. There's the right side, which is the value part. And I get everybody started on the right side of the canvas, because that's where the customers are. That's how you get paid. So looking at the left side, which is more of the efficiency, is one way to look at it. It's also your infrastructure. It's the business around the value proposition that you're offering. So how are you going to operate? And what's the most efficient way to do that to get started? So these are some of the important things that we need to think about in the way it's structured. But the right side is where we always start. I think it's very, very important that you start with this. The one thing that's missing from the business model canvas, which I wish they would put on, but I make our students put it on, is really the problem that you're trying to solve, and state that clearly in the top part. And that all drives into the value proposition, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But really, what problem you're trying to solve, who has the problem besides yourself, and what are some other companies or people doing well, and what are they doing incorrectly or not solving the problem. And that goes into the development of your own design of your solution, which gets back to the value proposition. So the left side is really where the cost of the business is. It's everything that makes up your cost structure. The cost structure is down below because it's the baseline for the top parts. You may have to pay for outsourcing to partners. You have key activities you got to operate in, and you need key resources, and all that takes money. And if somebody could actually identify the one place, or at least the one typo I made in this whole presentation, you're going to get extra credit. Just thought I'd throw that out. And the right side is the revenue of the business. So the revenue streams at the bottom are the baseline. You create the revenue streams by the top 4 blocks: the value prop, the customer relationships, the channels, and the segments that you're targeting. So let's go ahead and review. I spelled 9 wrong, or at least I'm not sure where the rest of it went, but we'll go with it. Now, again, this gets back to the fact that this is a document that people have made they create their own way of using it. So some people start in different places. I like to start in the customer segment. I like to start like, who's got the problem I'm trying to solve, or where's the gap in the market, or what trend am I looking at that I can take advantage of, and who are the customers in that market. So this is where we dive deep into the customer segment. Who are we trying to reach? What are their specific needs? What exactly is the problem they're trying to solve? And then we've got to decide which ones we serve and which ones we ignore. So if we're targeting a solution, let's say we want to help college students get service learning hours because it's very frustrating for them. I don't think we would be targeting 70-year-old people in assisted living as a customer. So the common sense plays into this, but you really have to be specific on the customer segment, and you have to be specific on who you're trying to reach. And so you build it. Many people do this using personas. It can be personas such as demographic stuff, and you can put that down, and that's great. But ultimately, it comes down to the situation that they're in, the context that they're in, and what are they trying to solve. And it's really, really important to understand that when you go through it. And at the end of this, there's going to be a little video on Warby Parker and how they define their customer segments and what they were looking for. It's pretty simple the way they lay it out, but I think it gets to the whole point of understanding what they're trying to accomplish and targeting them. And then the value proposition, we could spend an hour on the value proposition. And the way we teach people to do this is there's a whole nother worksheet that we use, and it really goes into, we don't even look at this chart at that point. What we're trying to figure out, the problem we're trying to solve, who's got the problem, and then we look really hard. This is where the research comes in, at others that are trying to solve the problem or sell a product similar to yours or that you're thinking about. And we list them all out, and we talk about the things that are good about them. We talk about things that are bad about them. We go into Facebook or Amazon, we look at reviews. We look at the negative reviews to see what problems they're having with that. We look at the positive ones to see what works. And the real value in this whole thing too is also what I've always found that worked for me and also helped me develop my own businesses was to become a customer of one of those that's already trying to solve a similar problem. And what that does is give you really, it's just so insightful when you're in a customer competitor business and you're evaluating it and you're taking it through all the way through how they present the idea, what their website looks like, how the buying process works, what's the whole customer experience, because you're living it. And that gives me tremendous insight into what I like and what I don't like. And then I look at the reviews and try and figure out am I the only one that looks at it this way, or are others struggling with this also? And that is where the inspiration comes from to develop your own product. So but in the write-up for this block, it's the customer view. It's not necessarily the features and benefits of the product, because anybody could write that down. You all know what that is, but how does it make the customer feel? Does it make them feel relieved that they finally were able to solve something? Does it give them peace of mind? What's the experience of the customer? What's the actual benefit that they get from this? And so all that comes into play. You're going to be bullet pointing this. You're not going to be writing long paragraphs on this. It's very important to say, these are the things that my customer needs to get from me. And when we talked about all the other ones and the problems, all the other users, all the other competitors that are out there, we want this one to be the right solution for this product or this company or this service. Needs to be your company, and here's why. And that drives everything. It goes into the marketing, it goes into making sure that your customers are there. It even gets into the other blocks, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And so, yeah, we're solving a problem for the customer. They have a job to be done. This has got to be the best solution out there for it. So the important thing about this here is the value proposition has to connect to the target market that you're targeting. And there just has to be a link to it. Your offering has to go and fit into that customer segment. And so as you build it, it's not these blocks stay by themselves as independent. They're all related to each other. And so if we've got the right value proposition, we're targeting the right customer, then the next phase is really the channel. And the channel is where you're doing two things. And some people split this up into different places, but I like it in the channel. It's where you communicate and where you deliver the product. It's how you reach your customers. And it's really the whole point of entrepreneurship is to build something that people want. And you also need to understand how they want that to get that product. Do they want it in a retail store with a face-to-face salesperson, or do they want it online, where they just make sure that it's simple and easy and I can buy it, and there's good service if I need it, but hopefully I won't have to worry about the service. It's just easy to buy and it works and does what I need to do and it solves my problem. So this is the channel, and how you reach them, how you communicate with them. This is your marketing piece. This is where you get your customers. There's a little bit of that also in the customer relationships up top, but right here is it online? Is it through social? Is it online selling? Is it social media? Is how you reach them and talk to them? Is it your blog? How do you communicate with your customers? And because we're doing a startup, you can really look at this as who are going to be my early adopters, because this is a new venture launch class. And your early adopters may have different characteristics, may have different needs than some that you get later on. So if you keep it in your mind that I'm trying to find the early adopters, that will drive all of these boxes that you're trying to do. So how do you reach them? What do they want? It depends on the offering and how you're going to target them. So all of this gets back to really your customer segment that you're targeting. If they spend all their time on the phone, you probably need an app. If they spend all their time at home watching TV and going shopping in the stores, if they're older population or whatever that still want to do things the old way, then your product better be going through that channel. So it really depends on your customer segment and the value that you're offering. The customer relationships is where you make the connection to the customer. And this connection can be personal. It can also be automated. And what we mean by that is, again, if you're buying a new car, you may not want to buy it online. You may want to go into and drive it. You may want to go and talk to a salesperson, although I don't know anyone that would want to talk to a car salesperson, but yes, that personal part of it does come into play. The automated part maybe come in through Amazon. Amazon is one that basically their whole model is automated, but it's also personalized. And what that means is they've got the algorithms that give them insight into the customer. And that algorithm says they buy this, they like to do this, they buy it here, they only buy companies or products that have 20,000 reviews and 4.5 stars. They basically know everything about you through the algorithms. And then when you go to Amazon, you'll get the recommendations. Those recommendations are based on your preferences. It's no other reason. They're trying to match up exactly what you're looking for. and they know how quickly you stay on the site. So they're trying to get that in front of you as quickly as you can. So you probably have already done deliberation on the product. You've already gotten educated on the product, because most people do that now ahead of time. So the sales funnel has gotten a lot shorter, and it's about the impulse at the end. Which product am I going to buy to solve this problem? And that is the automated response. It may have help, chats and things like that to connect with you. But it's just because it's automated doesn't mean it's not personal. It's just done a different way. So there are numerous ways to connect. The main thing about this is this is where you gain the knowledge, and this is where you learn about the customer. So this is a beautiful thing about entrepreneurship. When you get those first customers, you want to get as much feedback as you can. It could be if you're reaching them in store, you want to talk to them while you're in your store. If it's online, you want to get as much data. You want to get reviews. You want to know. One of the best things to always find out as a new one is, would you recommend this product to a friend? So what that does is tell you that not only do they like it, but they're going to tell people about it. And in the beginning part, the referrals are the key to growing a business. Doesn't matter how many ads you put out and all that. If the customers aren't happy, if they're not talking to people about it, then you probably aren't going to get really big. So these are some of the things that you will learn as you go through the customer relationship. It may change your value proposition as you learn more and more about your initial customers. You may have to offer something else or pivot or change it a little bit. But all that comes through having that customer. So the revenue streams are basically the baseline underneath all the other building blocks. So this is going to be how you get paid. And this is the monetization of your product. This is the part that says, yeah, they like my product, but will they give me money for it? And this is a real test in terms of your viability as a startup, is getting to that point where customers will actually pay you. A lot of things get done when you're starting out in entrepreneurship, where you actually put things out there and see how they use it and see what they do with it. And yeah, that's great. And you get people talking about it, but ultimately, will they pay you money for it? And it's really difficult at times to figure out how much will they pay you for it. Unless it's a product that's already out there, it's got numerous other competitors selling it. That's pretty easy to figure out where your price is. But ultimately, it comes down to your brand. Like, what does your brand stand for? And we'll talk about that a little bit later in this class. Because are they going to pay a little bit more, or is your brand one that just offers discounts and cuts people on prices? So all that is going to come into play. How they pay. Will they pay you a subscription? Do you want to do a subscription box and sell products every quarter, send them products every quarter? Do you want to have them pay in advance? Is it a freemium model where some of it is offered free and you hope to move them toward the premium version where they'll pay money for it? And what percentage are free and what percentage are paying? So all that goes into this. You're only dealing in assumptions again. So again, we would run experiments to figure out what works, what doesn't along the way. So the right side is the value side, and it's where you get paid. It's where you create the value for the customer and where you get paid for it. It's who you're creating it for and all the other stuff. And so you're creating for whom, the delivering and capturing, and all of that is really, so you're making money by offering something of value to a customer. So that's it in a nutshell. The left side is, I call it the boring side, but it's extremely important. When I started my business in 2008, it was the middle of a financial crisis. We were out learning about our customers, but we couldn't get any because the financial crisis impacted our business, our industry significantly. Nobody was buying. So we ended up having to focus on the infrastructure in the cheapest way and wait for our customers to get back into the market. So we had to do it in a very lean way, but we really had to understand who our partners were, the activities, resources, and the cost, and we had to survive that period until people started buying again. So that was a really difficult thing, but that made this side of it, the left side, very, very important to us. And it should be very important to you in the lean startup focus as well, about how do you find the partners that can keep my costs as low as possible, but still add value and deliver the product to the customer. So one of the interesting things that's going on right now in terms of tech is, well, first of all, 2008, when I launched my business, it cost $60,000 to build a website, and I had to pay somebody. We were in Europe, and we had to pay somebody, a freelancer in New York, to build it, and it was complicated, and it took time, took money. Now you can start a Shopify account for $30 a month, or you can go into Squarespace and start it for 25 or 30. The other thing that's happening is on the app side, instead of needing coding to develop an app, I'm using a service right now called Mighty Networks. That is, you're using it for the research articles. That is an app that was created, no coding. I just go in and create the content, and then we start talking, and we're using it as if we would use any other app. It's pretty powerful. So the movement on the tech side is toward no coding. Creating apps with no coding, creating websites with no coding, and that drives the costs down. So the technology costs continue to go down, which creates opportunities for us. But this side of the game, the efficiency side, the infrastructure side, is critical. The more you can drive that down, the better, especially when you're launching a startup. So the key resources part, and I spelled resources wrong. I told you you're going to get extra credit if somebody guesses that, but I just gave you the answer. This is real important. So this has got 4 different sections to it. You got the physical, you got the intellectual, you got the financial, and the human. So this is, are you going to have an office, or are you going to work out of your home? Do you need a store or not? Is it mainly, are you selling a service that's based on your own intellectual property? Do you have a patent? Do you have trademarks? Do you have any money at all to back this? And the other part is, who's on your team? Is it you by yourself, or is it anybody else involved? So all of that goes into the key resources. Pretty self-explanatory on that. So you just have to identify it and describe it in this section. And I already went through that. So the key activities are also extremely important, because this is where let me go back a second. These are activities that you need to get started. So one of the key activities you have in this class is to launch a website. So that's essential. So how are you going to do that? There are certain things you have to do. You have to sign up, you have to develop it, you have to review other templates and other businesses to get ideas and inspiration from. You have to also be able to market it, and because you're going to have to reach those customers on the other side. So you're in the key activities. If you think about it, you're already figuring out who your target segment is, which channel you're going to go into. So the channel you pick really drives the key activities that you have to do, because it's all related. Getting customer relationships, getting feedback is very important. So one key activity may be to get that feedback. What's the simplest way to get customer feedback, to automate it? How can I set that up? You may need to put that in place and develop that process of doing that. You also need to purchase the products from somewhere else if you're not building it yourself. So that's a real activity, is how do you find the manufacturer and source the manufacturer and manage that supplier to make sure that they're delivering on time. So there are a number of things that come into play, that the quality is good, that drive the key activities. So do not do the nice to have. You got to drop those, because this is a lean startup. You got to focus on the minimum it takes to actually get this thing launched. And then you try to do it better and better and better and stay efficient. And you have to figure out, what you're willing to pay for on the activities, what you can afford to do. So, but there are some minimum activities and resources that you need in every startup to get the product in the customer's hands so you can build it. And as you generate revenue, maybe you attract outside investors. You can expand the offering, which is going to expand the activities and the resources that you need. So that's why this document grows and is a very dynamic document. The key partners are absolutely critical today. And what it does, let me see. If I could, this basically enhances you. It basically takes everything that you're doing and allows you to do more than if it was just you doing it. So the outsourcing piece is critical. You're outsourcing to Shopify instead of having to build your own e-commerce site. You may outsource to an add-in that keeps track of members. If you offer memberships on your site for some reason, if you're doing a service, you have a free version and a membership version. There's other companies that you could partner with that would actually track that and manage that for you in the database, and you keep track of it through that. So the key partners are really, the way I look at it in today's world, is we're building, they call it a stack in the tech world, where you add on different solutions to help you do whatever you're trying to do to get launched. But it really is a process of running your business. So stack is a very fancy word for saying, I need to be able to do this. What's the best software to do that? I need to be able to do this. And the next step, what's the best software to do that? And you try and find the cheapest versions or the free versions to actually do that. And that is the lean startup approach. So you are looking for the outside partners. You may have an outside partner who's handling your accounting, your bookkeeping. Those are some of the other ones that are necessary. You may have a key partner on the marketing side. There may be some different SEO websites that you may want to use or software to use, or you can do it yourself on Google Analytics for free and Google Console and all that, and just utilize the free versions to do that. But those are your partners. Those are people that are companies that enhance your ability to deliver value to the customer and amplify it. That is the key thing. It basically takes you and multiplies you and clones you, so you don't have to do all of it. There's so many things you can automate today. And the examples depend on your model. So the partners that are key to your model you just have to take that into account. And the cost structure is you got to pay for everything. You got to pay for the resources, the activities. You want to minimize the value as best you can. You can try to use free versions. I've seen so many startups start with $200 and grow it into a business. There was one that was building a platform to connect nannies to parents in the Seattle market. And she started with using iMessage and Google Sheets or Excel. And then she used a board that was on her wall to schedule it and all that. And she did it using everything that was free until she could prove that there was a real market for it. She got her first 10 customers. She started getting feedback from them. Then it grew from that, started doubling, tripling. And then she was able to get outside funding. And over a year, she ended up raising $4 million based on something that she started with $200. And it was a platform. So you try to utilize everything you can to keep the cost structure low. And it's critical that the cost structure adds value to the other side of the equation. So the real problem sometimes has happened back in the tech bubble. We talked about it, is having too much money. Initially, you lose focus on all these things, and you lose focus on, is there a better way to do this? When I launched a different business in 2013, I was actually packaging up loans and putting them into a fund, and it was a peer-to-peer lending platform. And I was going to keep track of the loans. I couldn't figure out how to do that. I started looking at outside services. It was $200,000, $300,000. And I just said, I'm not going to do that. This is crazy. And I was able to do it in Excel and build the models that way, and had no problems. It wasn't as efficient as buying a $200,000 software piece, but it did everything I needed. And that's the point. It gave me everything I needed to do it, and it was free. So. And then, so the whole point of this thing, that nanny story I told you about, after they raised $4 million and figured it all out, one of the key things that hindered them as they were growing. They were building and building and building, but they were losing money. And they were losing money because they couldn't figure out the business model, the pricing model to price it. The unit economics didn't work. The nannies needed to get more money than they were getting, and the parents weren't willing to pay it. And it took them a number of over 2 years to figure that part out. That was the biggest issue they had. The person that started it, she closed the company, and now she started another one, and she's got some of the similar investors in there because it was the process she went through, the way she built it, the way she figured out. Even though they lost money, they're still backing her in another idea. So failure is not permanent in the entrepreneurship world. Okay. So those are the 9 business blocks. You've got the big picture. The logic hopefully makes sense to you. It is common sense, but all the pieces have to create value. All the pieces you got to work together to deliver value, and then you got to capture it and you got to monetize it. So that is the business model canvas. I hope you've enjoyed the book. I hope you've enjoyed this insight a little bit into it. But remember, this is a document that is a place to put your assumptions, and those assumptions will change as you evolve and your business grows, and after you launch, you may have to go back and look at a different customer segment. So always know that as you build this business plan on a 1-page piece of paper, that it will change. So now I'm going to show you, this is it's a very short video. It's from a guy, I'm not sure, I think he's in Germany, but I'm not exactly sure. But he actually did a little video on Warby Parker, and he used Business Model Canvas to explain it. So we're going to listen to this a little bit to give you a good example of that. I just think this is better than me creating something for you guys because he did such a good job.
Hi, and welcome. My name is Holger Niels Pohl, and I'm the founder of the Work Visual Institute. And today I want to talk about the Warby Parker eyewear business model case. So they say they offer designer eyewear at a revolutionary price while leading the way for socially conscious businesses. Let's see how they do it. So in the customer segments, I've drawn 2 people, but it's basically one customer segment, which is the so-called young, cheap chick customers. And they wear eyeglasses for sure. So if they buy at Warby Parker, they feel good and beautiful, and they can buy and purchase affordable design glasses. And the shopping is with ease, right? So the last one is quite important for the channel because the main channel is a web shop, and they're creating quite a lot of buzz in social media. Their customer relationship is quite special in terms of the community, and I think I want to deep dive into that one a bit because they have the concept of buy one, give one at Warby Parker. So what they do is if you purchase glasses at Warby Parker, they spend a pair of glasses to a nonprofit, and this nonprofit organization will give the glasses and train entrepreneurs who can then, with a micro business, sell the glasses to people in need that couldn't purchase normal glasses. And so we have like a double-sided win situation here. We have happy customers with glasses, and we have happy micro entrepreneurs as well. This is building the community that we're talking about. To have trust in this system of buy one, give one, they have to build in the key resource, which is their brand, which then leads to like the feel good and beautiful thing, but as well in building the trustful community in that case, right? So what they have as well is a home trial where they build trust as well, because you can't just try on your glass and if they don't fit, you just send them back, right? And they have a very expensive call center in the middle of Manhattan, which is like filled with very well-trained people to build on the brand as well. And so you see, they really mean what they say, right? They're trying out some stores. I'm not sure if they will stay or if they will perhaps be more like a key resource or activity in terms of marketing. I'm not sure yet. Let's see how it will evolve. So we have one-time purchases only. There's nothing sophisticated about that in this business model. Interesting at the other side. So we have non-profits as key partners, of course, for the community and the relationships and for building this concept of give one, buy one, give one, right? So they have celebrities as well, which are helping with the social media buzz. And then they use to sell other brands, which is then kind of building trust for their own brand in a psychological way, but it's interesting when it works, right? So there is a key activity that's called a distribution in this case, because we have a business to customer business model mechanic here, which is of course causing a lot of costs, right? So they have to deliver to the homes in small sizes, and they have to pay for the brand as well. These are costs as well. Then, of course, the key resource is the web shop, which needs as key activity development. This ensures, if they do the development in-house, that they have a very good control about the shopping with ease value proposition. So then there is one thing left, which is what they did, which is quite not too special, but nowadays, but it's a good move. So they brought the design and the production process in-house, right? In this way, they have total control about the affordable design glasses. And on the other hand, of course, they are creating costs. But by cutting out the middleman, the costs are not that important in terms of revenues and profits at the end, right? So this is basically the business model canvas of Warby Parker. I hope you found it helpful, and I'm happy to see your comments. I would say, see you in the next video.
Okay, so there we have it. Business model canvas in, I don't even know how long it was, but if you have any questions about it, I urge you to get the document. I will send the document to you. I urge you to write down the problem you're trying to solve and why your product solves that. Write that across the top and then start filling out the business model canvas so you have a clear idea of the business that you plan to start, and all the assumptions are laid out clearly for you, and you can evaluate the cost structure versus the revenue. I'm available to talk to you about your idea. If you're struggling with an idea, I'll help you work through that. There are other ways to to build a Shopify business as well by looking at trends. I've got some technology, some software we can use to actually, if you're not trying to solve a problem that you're totally passionate about, we can look at trends and gaps and try to come up with that. So we hope to get you into the place where you can launch by October 1st. That gives us 2 months to be in the selling process and find the manufacturers and all that. So that's the game plan. I'll dive into Shopify on the next video, but I appreciate you guys, all the work that you're doing on the research articles. I hope you're enjoying the class, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.